Welcome back to the channel. Guys, I hope you're having a great evening. So we're going to talk about today why I'm so excited about news that's broke earlier today, and that is Netflix winning the bid for Warner Brothers, right, Studios. Spending a reportedly $82 billion. Big bucks, big bucks. Now, I must have been out of the loop because apparently Netflix still has a lot of money that I wasn't aware of to where they can buy these properties, right? So let's talk about why I'm so excited about this development, as it were. So we know that recent news had some of us kind of dangling from the chain on what was going to happen to the DCU, right? Under James Gunn, of course. And it was a lot of rumors about he's going to be fired, depending on what studios win the bid for Warner Brothers, right? And all underlying properties. And that he may not be able to finish some of his future roadmap movies, such as Clayface, right? What was going to happen with Supergirl? Was it going to be all of this studio involvement if it came down to, I'm sorry, guys, if it came down to these studios taking over, right? Whether it was down to the Ellises, right? It was down to the, was Saudi Arabia involved, right? Wait, it was Paramount, and it was, who's the other big wigs that were going to get it, right? Isn't that the Ellises, right? So it was them, and it was Netflix, and it was somebody else. For some reason, it escapes my mind right now. But of course, the big concern was if Netflix were to get the properties, right, the DC, that would it then become like the whole cinema industry kind of caves in, because what you have is these movies going straight to streaming service, right? So today we're going to talk about some of the details of this, why I'm excited about some of the details, and exactly what this means for the future of the DCU, what it means for the Snyderverse fans, as some of them believe that Netflix was Team Snyderverse, and we're going to talk a little bit about those things today. So first, of course, the reason I'm so excited is that I have become a big fan of the Gunverse. A great deal to do with Peacemaker, his tie-ins, what they did with the last season, and all of that build up to, potentially be taken away by studio heads with different directions. So here's what the details are that we've gathered thus far. And that is, number one, is that James Gunn's scheduling with the movies going to the silver screen are still on schedule. But not only are they still on schedule, as well, Netflix is not going to interfere with how James Gunn does things. So James Gunn's still going to pretty much have free reign over DC, right? So it almost sounds like James Gunn's in a better situation, right? Because him and Saffron, they're not going to be none of their plans are going to change. None of the creative abilities or the creative areas of how they want to go about it. None of that will be disrupted, right? As I say, they're going to let James Gunn have free reign to do that. And that's the only way I thought it could have worked anyway, right? The only way this could have worked is if James Gunn got to be James Gunn and do things his way. I just couldn't see like a studio head coming in telling James Gunn, suppressing him down. Oh, you can all do this, because James Gunn has the style of movies he does, right? Cinema he does is it's not going to leave much room for different interpretations, right? It's either a James Gunn complete show or is no show, and so unfortunately, as this big build up with the Snyderverse, right, had come in because of the history with Netflix, right? It is as clear as day that the Snyderverse will not happen, right? All the hopes and dreams, unfortunately, of the Snyderverse is over, right? And you won't have some of the issues. I think about Netflix and the Snyderverse. There were a few, but a great deal of issues came about. Some would argue or suggest with the failure of Rebel Moon, right? Where they put up a lot of money. And I actually like Rebel Moon. The crazy thing about it is I love everything Zack Snyder does with the exception of Superman, right? And that doesn't mean that he won't be fantastic doing other heroes in the DCU, right? And so, so that's out. That's totally out. But not only that, the failure that, and what can happen, right? It's kind of like, if you imagine that you're a studio, you put a lot of money behind someone, and things don't quite bear fruit like you wish. That relationship might be somewhat, I wouldn't say necessarily strained, but it might create less opportunities for you in the future, right? Your judgment may not be as taken as much more into consideration. But even so, James Gunn and Zack Snyder working together on movies before, having a history of good friendship before, it is not off the table to see Zack Snyder working in the DCU on particular characters, but not the Justice League, not Superman, right? Maybe there can be Elseworld stories, right? Lesser known heroes that Zack can tackle, and I think he'd kill it. I think he'd do a great job with it. He still is, to me, not only one of the best directors, but one of the best superhero directors, right? Just not with Superman, just not with Justice League, right? But that doesn't mean he won't do great with other characters. And so you had that. We had maybe a played up relationship with Zack Snyder and Netflix, and that would have led people to believe that Netflix would be much more open arms to Zack Snyder in a sense of letting him run the DCU. Of course, that didn't happen. I think it was a smart move on Netflix's part, because I think the worst thing that can happen is, especially what the history of the DCU's been, the worst thing that can happen is to come in totally overhaul everything, right? To the point that, what are you going to do? You're going to create a new Superman. You're going to create a new Justice League, another DCU with a whole different direction, right? It is disastrous. You might as well let James Gunn, who's doing fairly well so far, under the circumstances, right? Because James Gunn as well was under a drastic situations of let's get away from this Zack Snyderverse universe, right? And do something that the fans feel are more in relation to Superman, right? More on par with Superman. And that's what James Gunn did. He did a good job of it. Now, James Gunn can be quite James Gunny. That's true, and you can't help but see his seal on his properties. But he is a good storyteller, and he did great with the character of who Superman is. And so, no matter how far off the James Gunn verse universe goes, right? Superman remains Superman, right? So the David Cornswell Superman, it captures more of the essence of the Supermans that I think many people were asking for and were looking for, right? And so James Gunn produced that for them. Of course, now there might be some concerns with some of these movies, right? Netflix has this formula where they'll have a movie that they produce be in the works for a week or two, and then it's streaming on Netflix. I guess we could go far fetched with this as well, to the point that a good bulk of the cinema business is going to be streamed on Netflix, and I think that was the concern of Netflix taking over. But let's do this. Let's clear that all up right now. Let's fix all that right now by saying that from what we get from Netflix so far is that Netflix doesn't even intend on mixing these properties. Like you are not at this point anyway, with the exception of some of the TV shows, etc. Because you would think that Netflix would just kind of do this big combo thing where everything will just merge onto the Netflix streaming platform. And so people who pay for Netflix, many are under the impression of, okay, well, this is great for me because what's going to happen is I'm just going to be able to stream all this stuff with my regular Netflix subscription service. Unfortunately for them, that's not what's going to happen. These films are going to stay at the movies. Properties like Game of Thrones and all those productions for now are going to still be separate to HBO Max. So as to say that these which is kind of smart if you think about it, because what I'm kind of seeing with this whole Netflix merger acquisition thing is more so in the frame of a holding company where Netflix is buying these companies and they're holding them, right? But these companies are still pretty much independently running how they run before. They just got a new owner, right? So that means HBO Max. If you're subscribed to HBO Max, you're still going to be subscribed to, your subscriptions are still going to go through HBO Max, right? If you're a big movie buff with Warner Brothers Productions and such, the Batman, Superman, etc., those films are still going to be on the silver screen, right? And you're still going to the movies to see them. Nothing's going to really cross over. We have a roadmap at this time between Netflix and Warner Brothers, right? For the most part, as far as we know, as far as the message they're putting out, is everything is going to stay pretty much separate how it was. You wouldn't even know Netflix owned Warner Brothers unless you were to ask them. But for the rest of the customers, as it were, and we're going to experience what would appear to be pretty much the same thing that's been going on. And I think that's great. I think that's awesome because I think Netflix recognizes the working formula with HBO Max and so on and Warner Brothers. And why disturb that, right? You're only going to create issues for yourself for a property you just purchased that you want to be successful. And by disrupting and mingling and doing all this stuff that makes it feel different than the brand it's always been, then what you're going to have is you're going to have basically a potential problem in the success of these platforms, right? So I'm happy about that. God, that this means that we may see Peacemaker again. We're definitely going to see them, the DCU, continue on under James Gunn, and that means we're going to get to see all of these things I found very interesting with the take on the DCU that James Gunn's produced. I'm very much interested in all of the things that they're working on. This Green Lantern series seems like it's going to be quite interesting, right? Of course, we're waiting on Supergirl, Clayface. We're at some point this version of Batman James Gunn's going to produce, and so it was a little bit concerning with all of these big developments that could dramatically change everything, but to see it all come together and that James Gunn may actually be in a better position than he was, because not only does he have this certainty, he may be more free than he even was under Warner Brothers, right? Because here's the thing, Netflix, they're kind of new at this, right? Owning big, properties like DC or Warner Brothers, right? Or something that I think for their future, for their future survival may have even been necessary, right? You know how it goes with these streaming services and various things, right? They, they do very well at some points, but then, Netflix had suffered some declines and setbacks. But if it's holding billions of dollars in properties in Warner Brothers, right, DC and all these various things, what it does is it creates more safety to their survival, right? And that's, of course, what any successful business will want. But that's all I want to say in this video, guys. Guys, if you like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe. Tell me how you feel about Gunn versus Here to Stay, Here for Good for now. All the plans will continue on as they've been set up. That means potentially we're going to see another Creatures Commandos. We're going to see Peacemaker Season 3, possibly. We're going to see certainly the Superman, the next Superman a movie, the Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, whatever it's called. And all the great things I think James Gunn is gonna do. But as always, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you on the next one.